Welcome back, YouTube family, to one of the realest channels on YouTube. Y'all don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you'll be notified when I drop some new hot content that you definitely don't want to miss. That said, let's get right to the content.
You have no idea how many, you have no idea what's coming. We smell Christian blood. We are waiting for our day. And when the call is given, millions of us will be released. And they looked at me and said, you believe in revivals, and you believe in Pentecost and the power of God. You believe in all that. We believe in the Black Awakening. So I look at you or I look here?
It's up to you. Okay. So, all right. What is the Black Awakening?
It's related to the red horse prophecy in Revelation. It's related to 2 Thessalonians 2 when it says about the day of the Lord, the parousia. That day will not occur until the apocalypse of the Antichrist and the apostasia, the word rebellion or revolt. That's all really defined in the prophecy of the red horse. But here's where the term came from and why I used it purposely. When I started dealing with ritually abused individuals, and then we dealt with military-oriented, highly trained, programmed shooters and assassins inside of them. When we began to deal with them, I dealt with someone from Fort Bragg for quite a while and a few others. We were sitting in a lake, Conneaut Lake. They reached over and ripped open my shirt to see if I was wired, if I was wiring and recording them. And they were the most sophisticated satanic warrior type person. They knew 5-6 languages. They knew the ancient twilight languages. They knew how to conjure. They knew how to use Belteshazzar, Okwam, all these old Pictish languages of the Druids to summon. They are the real Luciferian. They've been through many human sacrificial things. So they sat there to tell me some of those things, what they've been involved with, how they sacrifice a human. I'm listening to all this stuff from them. And then they said to me, you have no idea, Russ, how many of us there are out there. How many satanic, they use the term, chosen ones. You have no idea how many. You have no idea what's coming. We smell Christian blood. We are waiting for our day. And when the call is given, millions of us will be released. And they looked at me and said, you believe in revivals, and you believe in Pentecost and the power of God. You believe in all that. We believe in the Black Awakening, a multi-continental release of power to activate the program demonized, where they've weaponized the demonic powers to these super soldiers.
Are they waiting for a specific time to unleash their power?
Yeah, they are, because they have to do it at the moment the Antichrist is, like you read in 2 Thessalonians 2, that it's caught the echo, the restrainer is holding back the apocalypse of the Antichrist, the unveiling in his movement. So right now he's held restrained. Soon as he who restrains is removed, soon as that occurs, we have White Horse, the release of the Antichrist. Instantly, we have the release of the red. It says the whole earth. Arene, peace is taken for the whole earth, and all of a sudden, it doesn't give the details, but all of a sudden, on a global scale, people are released to begin to, and the Greek word is sphadzo, slaughter, begin to slaughter people. It's used of animal ritual butchery to begin to slaughter individuals. That's exactly how they defined it to me back in the 90s. And we've heard this again and again and again. So that scenario fits the Masonic version of Chaos Before a New Order. It fits Father Meridon from the Cathedral of the Black Goat, his book, The Devil's Bible. It fits that scenario too. So some of the oldest, darkest occultists, the idea of chaos first, a collapsing of everything so that a new order can rise, that's all by design. And we've been given the heads up in prophecy, but all prophecy has boots on the ground. It'll all eventually happen. So I do believe that millions and millions of these trained, programmed, altered, demonized super soldiers, Whether we want to say it or not, they believe they're being raised to help bring the Antichrist in. When I was in England just a few months ago, their top guy that deals with SRA, Wilfred Wong, 25 years. So first time I meet him, I pull him aside and I said, listen, you've been doing this 25 years, yeah? I said, you know all about programming and demons, all that? Yes. I said, I looked right at him and I said, Wilfred, why are they here in England? Instantly, he said, they are here to collapse our government. They are here to help bring in and usher in the Antichrist in a new order. He didn't know. He already knew. That's true in Germany when we were in Germany, when we went to Wedelsberg Castle. That's true in Poland when we went there. That's true in Switzerland. It's true in Canada. So when we talk about our research in 38 years worldwide, there may be well over 100 million generations of them, and if even half, or even if 10% were intact, like say the United States, remember the shooter in Vegas? Look what he did. Look what that guy did. Okay, notice what would happen if 10,000 of them, or like Colorado Holmes, or like Jared in Arizona, what if 10,000 of them were released in 1 week? That's their plot plan, and biblical prophecies ahead of that to say here is what is going to happen, and from that a global monetary collapse, and from that's all that chaos is coming. So Revelation 13, a whole new order with the Antichrist can come.
Scary stuff.
Yeah, can be. It's scary for the world. For us, yeah. We know no matter what. Yeah,
bolden with the Holy Spirit. Yeah. So next question. This is a two-part question. First.
Hey man, I had to bring that video back. I was letting y'all listen to it, one of my other videos at the end, and I ran out of data, so I couldn't put the whole video in. That is a must listen to, y'all. But the people who know, man. We have nothing to worry about if you believe in the Most High. Man, if evil has chosen ones, you best believe, well, we already know that, the Most High has chosen ones too, and maybe you're one of them. It's wild, man.
The founder of NASA, which is this deceptive organization that collects billions of dollars from taxpayers every year, was a man by the name of Wernher von Braun. Now this Wernher von Braun, he was a German. He was a German engineer who played a prominent role in all aspects of rocketry and space exploration, first in Germany and after World War II in the United States. So it's funny because these engineers came from Germany after World War II, and they came to and received prominent positions in the U.S. government.
Prominent positions.
Now when Wernher von Braun died, his tombstone, or his the place where they buried him, has a scripture, and that scripture is Psalms chapter 19 from verse 1. And you know what it says? The heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament shows his handiwork. So this guy who's supposedly the head of NASA's space exploration, he knew that the earth is covered with a firmament that is furrowed. They're deceiving masses. And if you're watching screens, if you have grown up in the heliocentric version of creation, then even this conversation, everything in you is fighting against it, because you've been brought up in it to believe that the earth is a globe and that it's moving, and that, I mean, even if you think for yourself, water does not behave that way in a convex. If you put water in a container, it takes the shape of the container. All right. So at what point can water surround a ball on the outside, and then supposedly that ball is spinning, and that ball is spinning through space, and if space is a vacuum, then shouldn't it suck the water from the surface? So how is it possible that, you can't even reconcile some of the suggestions that they're making? And
even if they know the truth, they cannot say it because they have sworn an oath to Jabulon.
Yes.
Wernher von Braun. A lot of people want to know about this guy, and a lot of people are finna learn about this guy right now. If you've heard of Wernher von Braun before this video, let me know in the comment section. If you haven't, let me know in the comment section, because I'm pretty sure you heard about him in some of the previous videos that I made. And if you know about NASA, I know you heard about him, because also he's one of the fathers of NASA, and he's also one of the fathers of the occult, just like Aleister Crowley and Jack Parsons, man. And those are some of the chosen ones from the dark side.
Undoubtedly a prestige element involved in being the first on the moon, but I think the real significant thing about the Apollo program, our lunar landing program, is that it serves as a focusing point for a vast scientific and technological effort that could never have been mounted and conducted with this kind of determination had it not been for a firm target in space and time. In other words, you cannot have a hard-hitting program when you don't have a clear objective, like let's land a man on the moon in this decade. If you say just let's go out into space and see whether we find it interesting, you spend most of your time arguing with other people what the more important things are, and you don't get a job done. You also don't get congressional support for this kind of a thing. And so it is really the byproducts of the Apollo program that are more important than a timely landing on the moon itself.
Wernher von Braun invents rockets. The V-2 was the first ballistic missile that leaves our atmosphere, goes into the vacuum of space, and comes back and hits its target. Yeah. He knew, even though this is deputized for warfare, that after the war, if you're going to go into space, you're going to need something like that. We knew that too. We didn't put him on the line at Nuremberg. We got him to birth the Apollo program and design the rocket that would go to the moon, using his expertise that he used to terrorize London with the V-2 rocket.
Today, more than ever before, our survival, yours and mine and our children's, depends on our adherence to ethical principles. Ethics alone will decide whether atomic energy will be an earthly blessing or the source of mankind's utter destruction. Where does the desire for ethical action come from? What makes us want to be ethical? I believe there are two forces which move us. One is belief in a last judgment, when every one of us has to account for what he did with God's great gift of life on the earth. The other is belief in an immortal soul, a soul which will cherish the award or suffer the penalty decreed in a final judgment. Belief in God and in immortality thus gives us the moral strength and the ethical guidance we need for virtually every action in our daily lives. In our modern world, many people seem to feel that science has somehow made such religious ideas untimely or old-fashioned. But I think science has a real surprise for the skeptics. Science, for instance, tells us that nothing in nature, not even the tiniest particle, can disappear without a trace. Think about that for a moment. Once you do, your thoughts about life will never be the same. Science has found that nothing can disappear without a trace. Nature does not know extinction. All it knows is transformation. Now, if God applies this fundamental principle to the most minute and insignificant parts of his universe, doesn't it make sense to assume that he applies it also to the masterpiece of his creation, the human soul? I think it does. And everything science has taught me and continues to teach me strengthens my belief in the continuity of our spiritual existence after death. Nothing can disappear.
Wernher von.
I am Wernher von Braun. This motion picture was produced to enable you to experience more personally and vividly the most dramatic events of the Apollo 11 story. The pictures and sounds are real, recorded in real time, where the action really was. So, come with us. We are going to the moon.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition sequence start. other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
I think it means that the job of landing something on the moon where there's no atmosphere and using a rocket to slow it up and having the equipment still work is a very difficult job.
We've been brought in here by Stanley Kubrick to more or less ensure the scientific integrity of the film, to make sure that it's very, very close in reality, but still we want to make certain that it has a base of reality.
Before the end of the 60s, we will see a man to the moon, an American, and we're very proud that our country continues to produce these young men who go so far and carry with them so much.
To put people on the moon and with enough fuel to enable them to return safely home to Earth requires a still larger and more powerful rocket, however.
It's going to take some time, and I think we have to recognize it. They secured these large boosters, which have led to their being first in Sputnik and led to their first putting their man in space. We are, I hope, going to be able to carry out our efforts with due regard to the problem of the life of the man involved this year. But we are behind.
However, let us imagine for a moment that the many problems have been solved. We are ready to begin our first voyage to the moon.
It is quite possible that an aggressor nation that dominates space will then dominate the world.
We're in the final assembly building of the LEM. Stanley Kubrick and I have set ourselves several objectives. We hope to convey to the public the wonder and beauty and promise of the new age of exploration which is opening up before the human race.
Arthur, here we are on the LEM ship, and one can almost imagine we're on our way to the moon, or we've arrived at the moon, as a matter of fact.
Can you believe it? Can you realize that you and I, that all of us, have actually begun the exploration of another world? We have taken the first historic step into our solar system.
Take one.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Take two.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
We, the crew of Apollo 11, are privileged to represent the United States in our first attempt to take man to another heavenly body.
Man walks on the moon! Man walks on the moon!
The first man from Earth walked on the surface of the moon this morning, and the suspense here in London is unbelievable.
Apollo 11, Houston. Okay, Neil, we can see you coming down the ladder now. Okay, Neil, we can see you coming. I'm going to step off the LEM now. Go ahead, Mr. President. This is Houston out.
Hello, Neil and Buzz. I'm talking to you by telephone from the home room at the White House. And this certainly has to be the most historic telephone call ever made. You know?
By NASA, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration.
don't fall for the boo-boo, man. Like I always say, a lack of perception breeds deception. Y'all, Stanley Kubrick is the one that made the Eyes Wide Shut movie. Yes, he was on the live for that. But maybe it wasn't just that movie. Maybe it was for this too. They don't want the truth to come out, man. People, y'all read the caption and said, "What movie is this from?" It's from the moon landing, allegedly fake moon landing. Y'all see the evidence right there in front of your face. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Where they say, yeah, the first man to walk on the moon, you know, with Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong. Come on, man. I got to do all the work. Come on now. Y'all, one more thing. Don't forget, these videos are for entertainment purposes only. Don't believe anything that you hear or see in these videos. Don't believe anything that I say in these videos. Always do your own research and always use your own discernment. Always. Let's go.
You know who Wernher von Braun is?
Yes.
Wernher von Braun was the head of NASA. He's the head of NASA.
Yeah,
he
people don't realize that.
He directed all 6 moon missions. And then check this out. When Wernher von Braun died, put up Wernher von Braun's tombstone. He has a Bible verse. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. Wernher von Braun. What does it say? Psalm what? 19:1.
19:1.
Watch. I'll put up Psalm 19:1.
Oh, there it is at the bottom.
Now, what does it say?
The firmament
sueth his handiwork. Now the firmament, that's the dome. That's what separates the heavens from earth. That's what Wernher von Braun put on his tombstone. Get the fuck out of here! That's a deathbed confessional right there. That's a death. The guy who faked 6 moon missions put that shit on his tombstone.
When Wernher von Braun was dying of cancer, he asked me to be his spokesperson, to appear on occasions when he was too ill to speak. And I did. And what he asked me to do was to educate decision makers and the public about why we shouldn't be putting weapons in space, why they're a dangerous, destabilizing, too costly, unnecessary, untestable, unworkable idea, and what the alternatives are, how we could be building a cooperative space system. What was most interesting to me was a repetitive sentence that he said to me over and over again during the approximately 4 years that I had the opportunity of working with him, and that was the strategy that was being used to educate the public and decision makers, and the scare tactics, the spin that was being put on a weapons system. And that was how we identify an enemy. The enemy, at first he said, the enemy against whom we're going to build a space-based weapon system that he thought was a ridiculous idea, unnecessary and very dangerous, not to mention too costly, etc. The strategy that Wernher von Braun taught me was that first the Russians are going to be considered to be the enemy. In fact, when I met him in '74, they were the enemy, the identified enemy. We were told that they had killer satellites. We were told that they were coming to get us and control us, the dirty commies, that whole story. First, the Russians were the enemy against whom we're going to build space-based weapons. Then terrorists would be identified, and that was soon to follow. We heard a lot about terrorism. Then we were going to identify third world country crazies. We now call them nations of concern. But he said that would be the third enemy against whom we would be needing to build space-based weapons. And the next enemy was asteroids. Now at this point, he kind of chuckled the first time he said it. Asteroids, against asteroids we're going to build space-based weapons. So it was funny then. And the funniest one of all was against what he called aliens, extraterrestrials. That would be the final card. And over and over and over during the 4 years that I knew him and was giving his speeches for him, he would bring up that last card. And remember, Carol, the last card is the alien card. We're going to have to build space-based weapons against aliens. And all of it, he said, is a lie. A lie. So when I hear that there's a possible threat of extraterrestrials, and I look at the history of thousands of years of possible visitations, recorded history, and when I hear now the stories of the disclosures of honest military intelligence industry people who have had experiences with UFOs, with crashes and landings, with live or dead bodies of extraterrestrial beings, people from out in the universes. And if I'm ever told that these are enemies against whom we have to build space-based weapon systems, based on my own personal experience of having worked in the military-industrial complex on weapon systems and military strategy, I'm going to know it's a lie. It's a lie. And I'm not only not going to believe it, but I'm going to go out as loudly as I can and tell everyone to take a look. They have not taken us away yet. We're still here after thousands of years of visits. If in fact they're still visiting us now and people are working with ETs, live or dead, if they're taking photographs, if they're experiencing all kinds of UFO experiences, then we have to look at this as something that is not a hostile occurrence. It would be my guess, based on my own experience of having traveled to countries whom we've been told had hostile intentions against the United States, it would be my hope and my intention to do everything I could to work with people who are working to communicate with and cooperate with these extraterrestrial beings, because they're clearly not hostile.
Now y'all pay attention. Now we are building. Y'all bear with me. Y'all heard what she said, and y'all know what time we is in. The times we're in today, and what's really going on, man. If you got the vision to see, and your eyes wide shut, then you really see what's going on, man. They saying UFOs and they call them aliens. I told y'all about that. In the Crowley video, man. What's really going on? Now, if you really want a better perspective of this, it's a movie on Tubi called Imminent, with the guy that played the Black Mantis's father in the first Aquaman, who was unalived, and that's the reason he was on a revenge trail for the rest of the Aquaman movies. Now, he played in this movie, and it talks a lot about this and how when people say that they come from outer spaces, underwater, that these things are UFOs are demons, they come from underwater. These dimensions and stuff are underwater because the marine kingdom belongs to Satan. Remember in the book, in the great book, when it talked about the man that came to the Lord, not the Lord, to Jesus, and he was possessed by all those demons, and they called themselves the legions, and they didn't want to go back to hell. They wanted to be pit back, and they begged him to cast them into the swine, and the swine committed a mass unaliving to themselves. Y'all get what I'm saying? The S word. And they all ran and jumped into the ocean and the water. It makes a lot of sense if you pay attention, and you know. But it's a great watch, y'all. Check that movie out tonight, man, or whenever you watch this movie, check it out. Imminent on Tubi.
That Wernher von Braun taught me was that first the Russians are going to be considered to be the enemy. In fact, when I met him in '74, they were the enemy, the identified enemy. We were told that they had killer satellites. We were told that they were coming to get us and control us, the dirty commies, that whole story. First, the Russians were the enemy against whom we're going to build space-based weapons. Then terrorists would be identified, and that was soon to follow. We heard a lot about terrorism. Then we were going to identify third world country crazies. We now call them nations of concern. But he said that would be the third enemy against whom we would be needing to build space-based weapons. And the next enemy was asteroids. Now at this point, he kind of chuckled the first time he said it. Asteroids, against asteroids we're going to build space-based weapons. So it was funny then. And the funniest one of all was against what he called aliens, extraterrestrials. That would be the final card. And over and over and over during the 4 years that I knew him and was giving his speeches for him, he would bring up that last card. And remember, Carol, the last card is the alien card. We're going to have to build space-based weapons against aliens. And all of it, he said, is a lie. He didn't mention a timeline, but he said that it was going to be speeding up faster than anybody could possibly imagine. That the effort to put weapons in space was not only based on a lie, but would accelerate past the point of people even understanding it until it was already up there and too late.
Check it out. Imminent. like I was saying, these guys wait till they get on their deathbeds almost till they spill the truth, or they realize that they have been deceived by the one that they've been following. And I was wrong, y'all. I must admit, it wasn't Jack Parsons who had this on his gravestone. It was this guy, Wernher von Braun. Y'all, I must correct myself. But yes, it's crazy how these guys wait till they fit to be, deceased till they come out with the truth, man. And maybe they probably ask God for forgiveness too. Maybe.
Now maybe we could say they faked the moon landings. But what about every single space agency after this? We're putting our trust in people to be honest and show us exactly what they're seeing. They would have no reason to lie about going to space, being on a space station, but that's where things start to get even weirder because we're catching them making big mistakes. They're having CGI glitches, their wire harnesses are not working correctly. If you do enough searching, you will find clip after clip of NASA fails. These people messing up in the middle of what's supposed to be a live feed because even with the best technology, things screw up.
This is crazy. Man.
So many times during spacewalks outside the International Space Station, we can see air bubbles rising up. Can you touch on how there are air bubbles in space?
Can you be more specific? Air bubbles?
So yeah, like a lot of times during the footage, the NASA footage, you can see bubbles coming up out of the helmets or kind of from underneath you. How do you explain bubbles in space?
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what you're talking about. Now sometimes you get water in the helmet. And it's either from sweat or from the cooling garments. And in some of my spacewalks, I had like water in the helmet, not like I was going to drown in the helmet, but just little bits of water probably came from sweat. Often on the outside of the space station, you'll liberate little pieces of it's a really harsh environment out there, and the outside of the space station gets beat up pretty good. And sometimes, you'll see just little flecks of paint or something that you might have disrupted floating away from the suit. And, that's generally what that is. I've never seen any kind of air bubble anywhere.
Yeah. Could it be that you're filming in an underwater pool and you're not really out there?
Now, you and I could put this whole thing to rest ourselves by going to space. Civilians could go to space. They've been promising us this for years. We can just take a rocket and go to space, right? They are working on it as we speak.
In a year's time, in the last few months. Early next year. Very few months.
Sometime next year.
By the end of the year, we should be taking members of the public into space.
By the mid-2030s.
By 2020.
Early in the next decade.
Before 2023.
And by 2025.
Most certainly in our lifetime.
That's 2024. We should have a permanently occupied human base on the moon and send people to Mars.
It's going to grow old if we don't start flying next year.
We'll return Americans to the moon for the first time since 1972, if you can believe that.
With our hopes of ever going to space continually burning to the ground, we're left with no other option but to take the pictures of Earth that NASA gives us.
I don't want to fool you here. Last month, for the first time since 1972, NASA released the Blue Marble, the single snapshot of the Earth taken from outer space.
NASA's Rob Simon made this, and it had wide appeal too. For example, it ended up as the default background on the iPhone.
I didn't even know until I bought an iPhone and turned it on and kind of did a little happy dance.
Simmons' job is...
It's primarily taking data and making pictures out of it.
That's what this is, a composite of data sets from several different instruments translated into a picture.
The single snapshot of the Earth taken from outer space.
To us, the really cool thing was the data set. Up until that point, there was no realistic color map of the globe anywhere.
There's artistry to creating the world.
What I imagine it to be. Unfortunately, I'm not an astronaut. I've never been to space, but I've looked at these images over and over again, trying to sort of get the essence of it. It is photoshopped, but it has to be.
The only time we ever see curvature from any high altitude balloons or anything that was sent up, it's created using a fisheye wide angle lens effect. We saw this during the Red Bull jump. Anytime they send up something on television, you're going to see this curved horizon, but it's the result of this wide angle lens. If you send up a non-fisheye lens to the highest height, no matter how high you go, horizon always rises to your eye level and it's always perfectly flat. We could also go to satellite footage. After all, aren't there thousands of satellites orbiting the Earth right now? One would think. And yes, there are in fact satellites being sent up year after year. There have been for decades. The only problem is these satellites are launched on balloons, and they have been falling down all over the world.
For a Michigan couple when a satellite crash landed in their backyard, and their reaction? Priceless.
Never know what's going to happen. This baby fell out of the sky and landed in our yard.
Okay, Houston, we've had a problem here.
Forget it, Bart. It's so bright out you can't see anything in the sky except the Fox satellite.
Now this brings us to our second method of proof. If we can't go to space, we could simply sail anywhere towards Antarctica, towards the southern hemisphere, and eventually we're going to hit the edge of the known universe, the firmament, or whatever's out there. Could there be more land? We don't know. But we could go prove for ourselves by circumnavigating north to south. The only problem is no one's allowed to do this. The Antarctic Treaty prevents it. You can take a guided tour. They'll take you to a fake South Pole and tell you, okay, this is where it is. But independent exploration is prohibited. It's guarded heavily by the military. You can't just go to Antarctica and check it out for yourself. Antarctica has effectively been off limits since December of 1959, and this was signed into law and agreed upon by over 50 countries. That should raise a little bit of concern. Why would an icy continent be off limits? Well, that's something we may never find out. Admiral Richard Byrd, one of the first people to really explore Antarctica, came back making bizarre claims of resources and in a time when Antarctica would be highly sought after by other nations. He also talked about unexplored land beyond the South Pole.
Admiral Byrd, you've been to both the North Pole and the South Pole. Is there any unexplored land left?
Man, that clip always gets me with Buzz Aldrin when they ask him about the moon landing and all that. And he said, it's simple. We did it go. It's fake. I laugh every time, man, because people still believe that it's real. That and he's one of the guys that was first to touch the moon, to walk on the moon. And he tell you that, then what? Come on, man. All these guys were in cahoots. These guys were all friends. Him, Crowley, they was followers of Crowley. Him, Parsons, Wernher and Braun, all of them are, all together. Neil too. Like it's crazy how people cannot see past the BS. Everybody, a lot of people just fall. I guess they willingly fall for the boo-boo, man. And that's crazy. Like, you got to be a fool.
What's this? Space Force boss acknowledges the U.S. will begin facing threats outside of Earth?
That's terrifying. And I only found this because it was shared to over 16 million people, so let's check it out. Okay, I found the article, let's read. It looks like that statement was said by the Space Force top chief, General Saltzman. It says he issued a concerning warning at the Space Symposium in Colorado Springs this past week. Where are the threats outside of Earth? Okay, here we go, we're getting somewhere. New threats that are not on Earth. Before you make any type of assumptions, we need to make it clear that the general has never mentioned anything related to aliens. He's talking about a new era in human technology. And this is the headline they chose, which has been cropped and shared to over 16 million people who now think that the Space Force acknowledged aliens.
Crazy work. Let me know what you think about that clip down below in the comment section. Are you still falling for it? Like, come on, man. They have to keep the lie going.
So I was thinking of...
Hold up, y'all. That is not my phone freezing like that. That is definitely the video that we're watching.
For a little bit. Because right now, they were getting to the moon. Wernher von Braun was a genius Nazi that we got from Operation Paperclip. And he's the father of NASA, right?
Man, I had to bring it back, you know what I'm saying, let somebody else explain it to the ones in the back who didn't get it or hear it the first time about that scripture, man. Come on, man. It's right in front of our faces, man. You just got to soak in the knowledge and soak in the game. If you're liking this video so far, y'all don't forget to hit that like button. You're doing me a big favor so other people out there could hear this content too and see this content too, that need to hear and see this content too, that have been falling for the boo-boo and want more proof of what's really going on.
My name is Joseph Spencer. From May 1970 to October 1997, I served the United States government as a top secret operative, but not in a category that is commonly known or understood. I was known as a man in black. Following 7 years acting as a counterintelligence agent for the CIA, I was recruited for a new assignment that entailed working within above top secret operations. I was aware of the black budget projects, but never knew the context of them due to their high level of secrecy. Even the president was denied access to their inner workings. Annually, billions of dollars are poured into black projects, which operate without any supervision or intrusion. They have full autonomy. Now the grand finale. This is some scary shit. In March 1997, an event known as the Phoenix Lights became the most infamous UFO sighting in history. A mile-wide vessel, clearly not man-made, flew slowly and silently over the state of Arizona and was witnessed by 10,000 people, including the governor of Arizona. To date, there has been no reasonable explanation, but for every witness interviewed, the craft was as real as anything they'd ever seen. Their lives were transformed. They now believe that we truly are not alone. However, there is another truth, for I know what they really saw. In 1986, while stationed at an underground installation near Boulder, Colorado, I was introduced to Project Skybeam by Lieutenant General Andrew Garris. I was then led down a corridor and into a large hangar, where a stealth bomber hovered only 20 feet above me. I stood there confused. Then Garris looked over at me and smiled, then asked if I was certain of what I was seeing. I replied, of course. What else could it be? I was then shocked to find out that this wasn't a real craft. It was a projected hologram. Since the early 1950s, scientists have been developing holographic technology, and over the years improved it to a state that we can only imagine. As I stood there staring at the bomber, which looked so absolutely real and solid that I could reach up and touch it, I contemplated the possibilities. What if this projection was 1,000 feet up in the sky? How would anyone know that that was an illusion? The Phoenix Lights craft, witnessed by 10,000 people, was the first grand-scale skybeam test upon the public. It succeeded beyond expectations. In October 1938, Orson Welles unleashed his War of the Worlds radio broadcast to the American public. were so realistically portrayed, vast portions of the population went into panic. Terrified citizens scrambled to evacuate their cities in droves. America had been easily tricked by very simple means. To amplify this response, those who are truly in power of not only our country, but all the countries on the planet, and who are the true purveyors of the depopulation process, have formulated the final stage of their sinister plan. In the year 2024, a global event will alter the course of mankind's future. The world will stand witness to a massive alien invasion. Thousands of projected holographic alien warships will blanket the skies, sending people into a global panic. Real military crafts within the holograms will inflict actual damage to the surrounding areas to sell the gimmick. And as a result of the ensuing human chaos, a one-world government will immediately form without any resistance from the people. They will be the new world order. Once this happens, we as a people will be doomed to enslavement and accelerated depopulation. With that said, the only hope for human salvation is to acquire and spread the knowledge of these activities and agendas. Resist, retaliate, then conquer this imposing enemy. The time is now, as humanity is rapidly approaching its final days.
Man, these people know exactly what they doing. They hoping that we don't find out, hoping we don't see through what's really, see through the BS and the boo-boo and see what's really going on. So a lot of us had a sight to see and the discernment to see and know what's real and what's not in this world, man. And hey, it is what it is though. But like I say, we got to spread the word to the rest of us out here, man, and the rest of them out there are sheeple, so they could wake up, you know what I'm saying? And because those are gonna be, them sheep are gonna be dangerous to us later on. You heard what the first video said. Those gonna be the people that are easily enticed, easily persuaded to join their side. We can't have that, y'all. You know what I'm saying? But like I say, to each their own. If you catch that, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, we're not trying to incite anything. We're not trying to do no fear mongering or none of that activity, y'all. I'm just trying to, enlighten a few people out here. I ain't gonna say a few. I'm trying to enlighten y'all, my crowd, my kind. Enlighten y'all, and my kind gonna help me spread the word. Y'all gonna share these videos and hit that like button so we can help everybody else who hasn't seen these videos and haven't heard this stuff hear it and see the stuff that they need to see, so they could use their discernment and pick, not pick a side, but pick and choose what they really want to do with themselves while they still have time left. Because hey y'all, it's getting closer and closer to that time. With that said, that's the end of the video. It's your boy Koozie, man. It's your boy MoneybaggCoo, man. I'm out. I hope all y'all have a good evening, a good night, and what they like to say, grand rising. Yeah, all that. Y'all be safe out there. Holla.